Hello and welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports for video number 2 of 2 in my tips on not getting dropped in a group ride. Now in video 1 I mentioned that these tips come from the perspective of someone who I consider myself one of the weaker riders in these fast-paced group rides. I'm an endurance guy. I do really well at really long distances, but on these short 30, 40-mile group rides, I get hammered. So these tips come from someone who has had to ride very efficiently to still be there when the selection is made and when everything falls apart and blows up, I'm still in some of the wheels. And of course, it always depends on which group we're talking about, right? There's always someone faster, right? There's always someone faster. All right, so this is number 6. Number 6 is be aware of the winds. Be aware in which direction the winds are blowing. If this is a ride you do every Saturday or every Wednesday, you should be familiar with, okay, there's a headwind on this part of the course, there's a tailwind on this part of the course, crosswind on this part. You should be aware of that. The prevailing winds, maybe 80% of the time are that way, and you can plan for them. There are times when the wind direction is different than what you're used to. So pay attention to the wind conditions. So how do you do that? Flags. Anytime you see flags, any type of pennants, there's sometimes, here at least when there's a new housing area, new development, you've got these pennants that are up. Of course, the American flag everywhere flying. Look for flags. Look for trees. Look at, bushes alongside the road. Sometimes you pull up to a stoplight or stop sign, and you can see leaves and stuff just kind of blowing in one way or the other. Pay attention to those things, right? Be aware of the wind direction. Also look at the riders in front of you. See what type of formation that pack is creating based on the impacts of the wind. What I mean by that is, if it's a headwind, you pretty much know, headwinds coming on, people are going to try to line up behind each other because that's where they're going to get the best draft and best protection from the wind that's coming on. But if it's coming from the side, you can start to see echelons forming if you have the real estate to do it. But if it's coming from my right shoulder, blowing across to this side, people are going to try to find shelter by putting half of their body or half of their bike about half of the rider in front of them, right? So let me see if I can... Let's do it like the wind is blowing from this direction, right? The wind is blowing from this direction. Instead of lining up directly behind them, you'll kind of be a little bit to the side of them. You don't want to cross wheels, but you want to have your body pretty close to the other rider in front of you. That could be an echelon situation wherever the wind is blowing, when the wind is blowing from one of the sides. If it's a tailwind, man, you better get on the pedals, because sometimes you'll come around a corner, all of a sudden it's a tailwind, and if you're not geared right and you're not anticipating it, you're going to not be in the draft and you're going to be spinning, and the pack has gone away and you're in your 5311 and they're gone, right? Because it was a tailwind, you didn't get in the wheels, and now no matter how fast you're going, the pack is always going to be faster than an individual rider. So always keep that in mind. I want to be in the pack because as a solo rider, I'm never going to be as fast as them. All right. Number 7, be patient. Now, this sounds a little weird, but when you're riding in the pack, be patient. Don't be the first one to react to any type of surge in the pack. If you got oodles, noodles of power for the day, go for it. But if you know you're suffering a little bit, and you know you're in a little bit of a hurt locker, and you know if you make 1 or 2 more accelerations, you're off the back, be patient. When that gap opens up, when that surge happens, be patient. Someone else is going to fill the gap. Someone else should fill the gap because they also don't want to get dropped, right? Be patient. Let that gap, or let several riders go through, boom, and then reintegrate and stay in the pack. So be patient. Sometimes I call this baiting the hook. There are a lot of times when I know that either someone's been sitting on too long, or I feel pretty good, so I don't want to do the work because I know that I feel good. So as this ride continues, I have a pretty good opportunity to stay with the lead pack. So I do what's called baiting the hook. I just kind of lay off a bit, and then someone's ego always takes over. Someone will fill that gap. So be patient. If you're not feeling good, be patient. Someone will fill the gap. If you are feeling good, be patient because someone will fill the gap. And then now you can save some energy, right? Remember what I said in the first video. You want to use the least amount of energy, the least amount of wattage, burn the least amount of matches to accomplish the same mission as the other guy or gal who is just, you could see it. You can read it in their body language that they are working so hard to stay in the pack. You don't want to be that person, okay? I often say this too. Let things come to you. Let it happen in front of you, around you. Let it come to you. Let that gap or that wheel, like sometimes you might have moved too far forward in the pack. Lay off a little bit, and here comes that good wheel that you know that's a steady wheel. I'm going to get on that wheel, and you kind of lay off a little bit and let it come to you. Let the good things come to you. Here comes that steady wheel, boom, and you're back on it. Okay? So sometimes, even when you feel good, be patient, back off a little bit on the power, find either a better wheel or the wheel that you know you should be on, because maybe that's the wheel of the person who's going to open up the sprint. Every Saturday they win the sprint, so everyone's fighting for that wheel anyway. But you'll find a way to be on that wheel. Busyness, the traffic, the washing machine effect, all that stuff. Be patient. Don't be the person who tries to make something happen. Be patient, relax. Let that whole washing machine thing, you got the people coming and going. Just relax. Eventually, things settle down, and the weaker riders, either they don't have the confidence to ride towards the front, or they're just getting shelled anyway. And then you're left with a really good, cohesive group, and you start moving away from everyone else. All right. Number 8. Spend energy to save energy. There are times you need to burn a match. You do need to work really, really hard so that you can work a whole lot less and stay in the wheels and not have to constantly be surging. So sometimes spend that energy, burn that match or two to stay in the draft, in the wheels, whatever, so that you can just, believe it or not, relax a bit. Okay. Sometimes it's worth it to close a gap, just so it's worth it to spend that energy to close that gap so that you can relax. There are a lot of times, I mean, I could see the stuff starting to happen because maybe I've ended up too far back, and I could see where I'm like, why doesn't a person close that gap? Oh, no, 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 no. And then now, we're pretty far back, and we all have to make that effort to go around. Had I been up a little closer, I would have burned a match to stay in the wheels. Number 9, cornering. If your group ride has cornering in it, if it has 90-degree turns, or even maybe not a full 90, but something, you have to learn to not get gapped when cornering. Especially if it's a downhill, this is an opportunity for you to not waste any energy at all and just stay in the wheels. I find, I ride with people that they lose the wheels on the downhill when there's just one little chicane or one little switch left, right, boom, and they're off. And there was no effort. There was no need to apply the brakes. Flow with the group. Try to minimize using your brakes, because that's horsepower you have to waste to get back into the wheels. So if you're cornering, also learn to pedal through the turns. Learn to pedal through the turns. Apply power through the turns. There are some turns you're going to yank and bank quite low. You don't want to pedal because you'll get a pedal strike. But there are a lot of times, there's a lot of flowing type turns. You can pedal through that, and you should pedal through that, because physics is going to slow you down from going 30 miles per hour this way, but when you bank and turn, you're not going 30 anymore. So you need to pedal through the turn if it's safe enough to do so. Go out pretty wide and then kind of flow back in, and you should be able to pedal through the turn. Okay? So cornering, there's no reason for you to get gapped on cornering. Okay? Just, there's no energy being spent. So stay in the wheels. Number 10, just always make steady efforts. I mentioned it earlier about if you've let a gap, you'd let a wheel go, don't be the guy, girl, that gets out of the saddle and sprints to close that gap. Okay, so just steady, without surging, steady, apply the power, get back in those wheels. So steady efforts, because you've only got so many of those in a group ride. And eventually, the one who's got more of those efforts is still in the pack, and you're not, and you're off the back. Traffic lights, this is your bonus round. This is number 11, and it's a bonus. Traffic lights can be a serious issue when your group doesn't respect traffic laws, and they lights yellow and you're trying to close the gap, and now the light's red. So if you know that your route is about to hit a series of lights, you want to start moving up. Going back to the first couple of points on video 1, move up when it's easy. Right in the first quarter, first third of a group. You want to move up if you know you've got lights, you got things that are going to split the pack, and you're going to be on the other half of it if you don't make the light. So that's one thing, but Another thing is, if you've made the stop, be aware that just about everyone is going to sprint off of that light because no one likes, I don't know why, no one likes to slowly pick up the speed again. Nope. As soon as that light turns green, boom, hammers down, everyone's sprinting off the light. That's not what I do in my group, and I try to curtail that activity from the other riders. Hey, ease up. Let's get everyone back in the pedals, and then let's get back up to speed, right? But you can't control that in a 50-person pack or 100-person pack. So you have to move up towards the front, yes? And that'll provide a much smoother transition, because as everyone else is sprinting off of that stoplight, you can find a way to reintegrate. So you moved up towards the front, the pack sprints off the light, and you reintegrate, and you're not wasting a lot of energy. Personally, it's one of the things I cannot stand. I don't understand why people do it. For example, we did a 100-miler in Santa Barbara, and we were, the timed climb was done. Maybe if you're going for a PR, personal record, or PB, personal best, of your overall time, the group that we were riding with, 3 or 4 of these guys, they were sprinting out of every light. And then there was another light like a minute or 2 later. It was like, what is the purpose of that, right? If you're that person, realize it's not necessary, and it's just hurting the cohesion of the rest of the group you're riding with. If you're the hammer and you just want to be the gal who just destroys the group you're riding with, I guess that's your thing. But if you want to keep a group together with you, there's just no reason to sprint off of these traffic lights. But as I said, a way to mitigate getting dropped is to move up, right? You see everyone's coming to the stoplight, just kind of slowly keep working your way towards the front, so that when it goes off of that green, you have time to slowly get back in the pack, and you're not, because if you don't have the confidence to move towards the front, you're going to be towards the back, right? And when that front end goes, you're going to be on a full-on sprint for probably 30 seconds to a minute to try to close the gap onto that pack. Again, you only have so many of those efforts before you're off the back, and you will never catch the pack again, especially if there's a few lights along the way. They get a green, you get caught at the light, that's it, pack's gone. Your ride within that group is over, and you'll see them at coffee, right? So that probably should be a t-shirt or some type of thing. See you at coffee or something. Maybe I'll do that. Anyway, ideas for merch always go through my head, so try not to steal that. But if you do, I don't know, say, Rev says, see you at coffee. Okay, that's all for part 2 of this video. So please make your comments down below. Tell me what you're thinking, what you've learned, what you will apply on your very next group ride, your very next criterium race, your very next road race. Tell me that you picked up at least one nugget of information that will help you, and tell me that you will implement it, and tell me your success. Okay, that's all for today. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you up the road.